straight into it. Um, for anyone who's listening, we've got two great guests today from ProtocolX. Super excited to talk with them. Shiv in particular has been very supportive of ChainBet in the past. So super excited to learn more about what they've been building. And also super excited to talk more about the partnership and what we can enable there for those guys. So I think let's start with a bit of a high level. Like, I'd love to know more about Protocol X. Maybe you can give everyone a bit of an introduction of what you're doing there and what it is that you've been building. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, of course. So Protocol X on the most base level is a rebase project up on BSC. There's a lot more to that though. We have built in a variety of different sustainability variables from day one, including multiple investments, and also how we partner with various other projects as well in order to increase our sustainability variables from there. Once we get this rebase token live here, we are in our pre-sale now, and the pre-sale ends just in a couple hours here. But once we get this protocol live and the LP pushed where it'll go, then we will then start developing an NFT revenue share system, and we'll have our own custom decks as well. So we have quite a big little ecosystem that is formulating here that'll be kind of all live in the next month or two. But we start up with this rebase token on Binance Smart Chain.
Awesome. Yeah, like you guys sort of allude to in your socials and on your website, you talk a bit about this sort of ever expanding, ever growing ecosystem. So, are there any bits of those that you'd like to talk more? Obviously, the rebase tokens pretty straightforward. I'd love to know a bit more about some of the other pieces that you guys have currently got going. Are there any bits that you want to dive into? Maybe like the sustainable emissions model or and the revenue sharing from the NFTs. Would love to hear more about all of those.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having us here. My name is Bran, or Brandon in the real world. I'm the community manager for ProtocolX, and I'll go into a bit of that for you. So, the difference between our token and a regular rebase token, right, is instead of just forking a generic contract, having that unsustainable APY, what we've done is go, hey, due to past experiences, we're very heavy, I'd say rebase heads. We've invested in all the big boys, the Titanos of the world. And we said, hey, what can we do to actually give rebase tokens a good name, give them something where people can go, hey, that's not just going to die in 4 months' time. So a couple of ways we've done this is the first thing that we introduced was a SEM model. Now, the sustainability emissions model, in essence, is a reducing daily APR, right? So for the first month, the APR will be 1.77%. And every month at the start of the month, it will reduce by 10%. Now, that will only last a year. In essence, that will only ever fall to 0.5%. And once that lands at 0.5%, we're obviously able to run that at a continuous rate and then evaluate and look back into the protocol and see what we can do from there. Now, I do believe once we hit that 0.5%, due to some of the things we're doing from day one, we are actually going to be able to make it sustainable, and I'll touch base on that now for you. So we're looking to introduce an LMS system, more of a price stability system, where we can create sort of a price floor for the token. You can see examples of this in, larger tokens such as Horde, and we're going to be implementing that with our partner Solar. Now, one big thing that we are quite advocates for in the space is that transparency, right? So our development team is actually doxed and KYC'd, which is quite rare in the space, to have a docs team. Usually, who the forefront of the protocol is, right? But you all you really know is a username, or at very worst case, you don't know who the developers are. So our team, Kinsu over at Solar Protocol, are our main and leading developers of the project. They're the ones that are in charge of building all the contracts, built the pre-sale page, established our website, and will be helping us build throughout our roadmap. Now, one reason why our project is going to be different, the contract itself is upgradable, so there will be no limitations in the future. One thing that we are looking forward to is every aspect of our project has the ability to be upgraded, right? So I'll touch base on one of the other products in our system. We have the Ego trading bot. So we'll be using trading bots to help generate external revenue sources. We currently at this time have 7 sources of income set for the day of launch. So initially, once the token goes live, there'll be 7 set distribution methods externally outside of the protocol that will be generating, some from low risk, some to high risk, all equally balanced out to not have a negative effect on the company, right? So essentially, what these bots will be doing is bringing external income from outside the protocol inside the protocol, which is quite rare for a project to say, hey, on day one, we're going to have funds coming inside the protocol rather than just using the funds already in the protocol. One of our big things is making the treasury work for us, right? We're currently in a recession. The money just sitting in the treasury is only going to ever depreciate, whether it's being used by the team, whether you have to pay for development costs, staff salaries, marketing. The treasury is going to depreciate, right? So one thing that we're trying to do from day one is use external revenue sources to bolster that treasury. Now I'll touch base a little bit on the Ego trading bot. If you don't know who Ego are, they are a brilliant company. Ego's trading bot averages between a 20 to 80% return and has been a net positive for the last 6 months, with last month it returning 32%. So from the initial launch day, we're going to have $100,000 in that trading bot. Now, if that bot can actively trade and get a sustainable 20 to 80% right, in 5 to 6 months' time, we're going to be looking at having, half a million, $1 million in that trading bot just on its own, with it being one revenue source. And if that can bring in, $250,000 per month for the project, essentially what that allows us to do is bolster the team salaries without having to take anything out of the protocol, pay for development costs, pay for marketing, and pay for buying and burning the token. We can also distribute cash to holders by using the NFT share revenue model, and I'll touch base on that a little bit later. But essentially, our main goal within the project is making Rebase sustainable. We're not sitting there promising a crazy high APY because it's unrealistic sitting there saying, hey, you invest $1,000, you're going to make $1.2 million by the end of the year. It's completely unrealistic. It sets false expectations. And when it comes to that point where people are like, hey, we're getting, we're 6, 7 months in now, I'm still at a loss. How am I going to become a millionaire? You're just funding that moon boy mentality, right? So, and that sits well, with our partnership with you guys, right? And we'll obviously touch base on that a little bit more. Bringing them external revenue sources, external burn mechanics, external ways we can actually give the PTX token and everything else within the ecosystem that specific use case to further benefit the ecosystem, right? So we could talk in regards to you guys, right? So table games. Essentially, if you deposit PTX into ChainBet, which we are extremely excited to do, we'll talk about that a little bit later between Neil and you guys. Essentially, guys you get rake back, right? You get things such as rake back, you get things such as fees, which can all directly benefit the protocol straight away, right? Whether that's for burning, whether that's for bio burning, and whether that's for genuinely growing the token. Now, that's one thing I'm really excited for, is I think a lot of tokens focus too far on the long term and not enough on the short term, and say, hey, in 5, 6 months time, we're going to have, a blockchain. That's great, but what are you doing in the short term? Because essentially with a rebase token, 6 months time is basically like 20 years in DeFi. I don't even remember what I was doing 6 months ago. It was completely different. I think I was dabbling in nodes and reflection tokens. The space changes so quickly. So with our ecosystem having so many upgradable paths, i.e. the contracts, the NFT revenue share system, which I'll touch base in a minute on, XSwap, future platforms for gaming, i.e. table games or lottery systems or actual PT pay to earn games. It opens so many avenues to keep the tokens exciting, keep the ecosystem exciting, and being able to grow it. Sorry, me and Neil can ramble forever because we're so passionate. So I'll stop there and let you talk. My apologies.
No, I love that. I love the passion. I love the excitement. There's heaps of points we can touch on and talk about there. There's also some questions coming in the community talk channel, so we'll get to those in a second. If anyone listening has got any questions about Protocol X and also the partnership, which we'll talk about in a sec, feel free to ask them in the community talk section. Hopefully, we'll get some time towards the end as well to maybe bring someone up if there's time. But feel free to ask away in the community talk channel just above the community office. But yeah, so let's talk about the partnership, because this is obviously a key point for us. By the way, guys, I'm seeing some questions about the IDO price, that kind of thing. The pre-sale is live for Protocol X. So if you like anything that you've heard today, if you want to get involved, please do go over there. I think you said there's only a few hours left. So, make sure you go check them out. But yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about the burn mechanisms and stuff like that you're sort of talking about, and that's kind of where ChainBet steps in. So for everyone listening, to make it sort of official, we've got a partnership with Protocol X. So we're super excited to enable betting in all of our games with the PTX token. So we will set up a bankroll pool, and PTX will be bettable across all of our games. And this is pretty beneficial for the PTX token holders for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons that sort of Bran mentioned was sort of talking about the burn mechanics. So basically, because the token's now playable in all of our games, as we continue to expand multi-chain, Binance Smart Chain's quite high on our list of places that we're going to next. And we'll be able to enable betting with our bankroll pool of the PTX token, so it'll be playable in all of our games. So this enables more velocity, more use cases for the PTX token. As we keep adding games to our ecosystem, that bankroll pool will be plugged in, so there'll be more and more games to be played with the PTX token. And part of that as well is when they set up the bankroll pool, it also is effectively earning returns in PTX. So that burn mechanic that Bran was talking about, it's basically pulling PTX off the market in a sort of a sustainable way that we all know what that can sort of do for price and how good that can be, so to basically reduce supply of circulating supply. So super excited to work together. Bran, I saw a question in the community talk channel. Someone was asking a bit about they were asking about the bots, and you mentioned that they're currently live now. I think the question was about, have they tried the bots before? You mentioned that they have a pretty insane return. Even last month, I think you said 32%, which is pretty insane for anyone who's ever used trading bots. That's astronomical. That's like the top tier. Could you maybe talk a bit more about some of these external revenue sources, in particular the trading bots?
Yeah, so I'll pass that over to Neil. Neil has personally been invested in them for quite a while, actually, and has also been dabbling in other trading bots that we're going to be using for the ecosystem. So I'll pass the floor over to Neil on that one.
Yeah, hey, thanks, man. So with the Ego team, I've known them for quite some time. Marquise is the one over there who developed this body. Initially started for personal use way back, so several months ago. I think between 6 and 8 months ago. The time has forsaken me. Maybe it was a year ago. Who knows? But anyway, he started developing it for personal use, and then he just kept getting better and better at it. Obviously, these bots are programmable, so over time, he just continued to refine it, continued to make it a little bit better at reading different trends and facilitate the strategies that are laid out. So in the recent couple of months here, Ego is funded now by their trading bot revenue. So it was initially a little bit of a different system, a little bit hard to maintain. This allows it for real revenue to come in from outside of the protocol and fund out their distribution of their rewards. So as they started developing that, they expanded it out to a commercial level as well. So that's kind of where my involvement with them. I've known the team for quite some time. I have a significant amount of personal money invested into that trading bot as well. And like Bran mentioned there, it did 32% last month. It is very, very well designed and constantly evolving. That's what I personally like about it, is I can call Marquise right now live while we're on this AMA, and he'd answer, and we can chat about how the bot's doing, what has he done to kind of tweak it. Any point in time, we can just get on the phone. I talk to them weekly on the phone. So it's comforting to me to be able to know the team personally and also see what's happening behind the scenes as well with all that. So I like the Ego team. They were our first major partnership, and they're our primary partner for the outside revenue system. We will have a total of 7 different revenue, actually probably more than that, but at least 7 different revenue accumulating strategies at the time of launch. Some of them are going to be in a variety of different strategic trading bots. Some are investments via partners that we have as well. But we have all these different things moving to kind of, spread that love out amongst different sustainability variables, bring in ideally a significant amount of revenue very, very quickly and early on, and then get us ahead of the curve. And that's kind of that same natural influx of the partnership here, is it just facilitates more revenue for us to facilitate buybacks and burns. with our tokens itself, which then helps the token price because rebase tokens naturally mint, right? So this all kind of feeds into each other. The trading bots, our official partners, everything that we do here. I like trading bots. I've been relatively interested just in futures tradings, and I was actually doing fairly well myself. So I understand the trends on a personal level, but then there's people better than I am that can develop these things that allow them to do it while I'm kind of, spending time with the gal at night or working during the day or whatever. These bots continue to work whether I'm busy or not, which is what I like about them.
Awesome. And I think as well, you guys alluded to it, but I want to make it pretty clear to anyone listening. These guys have got a lot of experience in this industry, and particularly with other previous projects. So, that you can tell that they've given some thought, particularly to Protocol X and to understanding what can make it sustainable as well. So that's sort of super exciting. Someone did ask about the tokenomics, given obviously that IDO is going on now, pre-sales open now. Is there anything that you guys want to talk to when you sort of talk about tokenomics?
Yeah, sure. I'll touch base on tokenomics, right? So our tokenomics are quite flexible. The initial tokenomics on the token will be a 13% buy fee and an 18% sell fee, right? So from that 13% buy fee, you have a 5% go to treasury, 2% go to X shares. I'll touch on that a little bit later. 3% will go to a buy and burn wallet, and the liquidity route will have a 3% from the buy. The treasury on the sale will have an 8%, X shares will have a 2%, buyback and burn will have a 3%, and the liquidity route will have a 5%. Now, to explain these a little bit more, I'll touch base on X shares after. So our tokenomics are built to obviously be sustainable, right? So over time, the APR drops by 10%. One thing we'll never do is raise the taxes. A very malicious marketing tactic that some protocols use, may even have recognized some in recent time, was to increase the sell taxes so people can't sell. That is something we would never do. What we actually want to do is eventually be able to lower the sell taxes and lower the buy taxes. Once you hit a ratio of where you're having 0.5% a day, effectively, you're not going to have to need to tax people as heavy, right? You want people to be able to make ROI quite fast and for it to be enticing. So what we're going to do is over time try and work the situation where we can lower all of the taxes, but we'd never increase them. Now, I'll touch base on X shares quickly because people may be a bit confused of what X shares within the taxes mean. So X shares is our revenue share model. Instead of just using a generic card or a token, what we're actually using is passageways. The reason for using passageways is so we can integrate that into future gamification. In a analogy sense, the reason why they're doors is because they unlock to a new potential or unlock to a new pathway in the future, right? So I'll touch base on these X shares quickly. Now, an X share in essence is a revenue share model. There's going to be 4 tiers. Only 3 tiers of the X shares will have tangible value. So the way you buy an X share is by buying the common valued NFT. So the common will be a base. It will be set at 1 BNB. Now, the only way to upgrade that X share to different tiers and unlock the different perks is by using X keys. Now, the reason why we're using a thing called X keys is for future-proofing the token as well. Now, an X key is only able to be purchased by ProtocolX token. So it doesn't have a cash value to it. You can't buy it with BNB or BUSD. You will only be able to upgrade your X shares with PTX token, buying X keys, and then upgrading it, right? So in essence, what that does is adds another burn mechanism, because when you purchase X keys with PTX, that is burn. When you purchase and upgrade an NFT, that NFT is also burn. So the reason why we've done it in that sort of mechanic is so that if you can only afford a common NFT, we don't want you to sort of feel like you're missing out or you're losing. So the whales and the larger fishes can upgrade their revenue share model. So essentially the supply of all the revenue share models will decrease over time. So if you can only afford a common NFT, which there'll be 5,000 of, and 1,500 of them get burned, essentially your percentage is going to raise, right? Because there's less in circulation. Now, that's just one way we're trying to look out for the smaller people within ecosystems, because most times, well, 9 times out of 10, these smaller people actually bring more value than some whales. And it is just true, it doesn't matter the size of your bag. everyone should have an equal say, right? So in essence, what we're doing with these X shares is we'll be using them for future gamification. The fourth tier of an X share, you cannot purchase that. The fourth tier is called the Legendary X share. Now, this will have some features such as direct revenue from our trading platforms, so the trading bots, direct revenue, and a higher percent revenue from all transactions and any future transactions within the company. And also, we'll have sort of a chair system. Instead of calling it a DAO, it's not essentially a DAO, but what it will do is allow direct access to speak to the development team, speak to myself, have one-on-one conversations at certain points, have group conversations, and make sure your voice is heard. The only way to get these are through periodic events. You can't purchase this with cash. It will have no tangible value, right? In essence, the way you can get that now is by partaking in the pre-sale. There's two ways to get a legendary NFT, is by buying a maximum wallet. You'll automatically receive one. There is obviously a stipulation regarding that. You will have to hold the base tokens you receive, right? So a maximum wallet is 250,000 PTX. You will have to hold at the time of the airdrop the base 250,000. We don't sit there and believe that people should hold their entire bankroll and their entire portfolio and not sell, right?
Plus, on top of
So
that,
we're more
divorce
than
laws
happy
where
for
you
people to sell rebases, take your profit, get your ROI. But as long as you're holding that base amount of tokens, you're good to go. You will receive your legendary X share. Anyone that purchased over $1,000 in the pre-sale will be entered into a lottery system to win an X share, a legendary X share. We're hoping to have 5 or so slots available on that, so 5 people will receive a legendary X share, and then the rest of the legendary X shares will be given out over time. It may even just be to the best shiller or the best person who helped the community, right? So we're looking to give them out over time to reward the community, no matter if you're a whale or if you're a small fish. We're looking to reward everyone equally. So that's just sort of a breakdown on how the X shares work in the ecosystem, and obviously future-proofing them to integrate them into gamification and growing them from there.
Awesome. I saw a question, and I know we've talked already about the shorter term and being the need to be effective in the short term, and you've also talked about a few different models that you've got for generating revenue from day one, which is sort of super exciting. But one of the questions that's come up in the community talk channel was asking sort of about basically what the longer term, I guess, plans are. So maybe let's say 3 years. I know it's, you talked about it before, how long that is in this space in DeFi. That's quite a long term goal, but could you talk more about what the longer term goals are with ProtocolX? And the question also asked about, plans to gain adoption, regardless of the current state of the market and the economy.
Of course, I'll touch base on that a little bit for you there. So I think one thing people focus too much on is the long term of the project, right? And this isn't a cop out. Obviously, I will explain everything we're looking to do long term and how we will provide that longevity. But I just want to say one thing in regards to that. If you're focusing too much on the long term of the project and you're not focusing on what the team are trying to do in the short term, the issue that we have with that is, say, for example, I touched on it earlier, right? I could sit there and say, hey guys, we're going to have an amazing blockchain in 12 months' time, and everyone's super excited for it. But then what happens? There's nothing happening in the short term. No one cares about the blockchain that's coming in 12 months' time, right? You've got to be realistic here. Like I said, 1 week in crypto is like a year. If you're not constantly bringing out new products, entertaining people, and changing and adapting your roadmap, you're not going to be able to generate that mass adoption and hype, right? So already when we've established our original roadmap, we've already added, 25 mental notes through that roadmap and, added new things like we're already planning to do, right? So essentially long term, one of our major goals has something to do with decentralized streaming platforms. Now, that is something I can't touch base too much on yet. The reason why is because we're looking to work with large-scale blockchains or VCs to fund that and build that. In the short term, we have a lot of things that we're working on, right? We want to delve into gamification, obviously with you guys. The sports betting and the gambling side is something that we find quite fun. If you didn't know, we do weekly tournaments with Club Monte Carlo. We do $1,000 free roll on poker, on FCF poker. Now, that's something we do to give back to our community and have some fun and engage with our community, right? Because if you're not engaging with your community, then, like I said, no one cares. So for the longevity of the project, we are strategically spacing out releases, right? Everything will come at a certain point. One thing projects do is they either fire their bullets too early or too late. So you can have this major milestone in 7 months' time, right? But if you fail to engage that hold account and create that community and engage everyone, you're not going to be able to grow that product that you're releasing, right? If you release the best app in crypto, but no one knows about it, and you've run out of funds to market and utilize it, then essentially it's a dead product. But what we're looking to do is periodically release and grow our products. Create that and expand that ecosystem. Create gaming platforms. Create arcade platforms. Create platforms for our decks. Grow the decks, expand within the ecosystem. I think one thing that people focus way too much on is expanding outside of DeFi rather than expanding inside of DeFi. And that obviously touch bases with our partnership with you guys is we're looking at ChainBet and going, hey guys, right, these guys, great platform, great guys. Neil has spoke about you guys a lot. They're already planning that expansion within DeFi, right? Now, that's the good step to make within DeFi because you're a DeFi product. Some mistakes people make is not expanding within DeFi and instead trying to go, hey, we're going to bring that real world utility. But if you're not able to bring that real world utility in the short term, you're not going to be able to prosper it on the long term. So what we're doing is bringing that short term DeFi utility and in the future, in the background, working on that long-term real-world utility instead of sitting there saying, we're going to have the blockchain, everyone wait for the blockchain, it's going to be fire, it's going to be the best blockchain. We're being realistic. We're slowly growing our decks. The decks will be our secondary liquidity source. We're going to use arbitrage bots to play between the platform we're launching on and our decks, create a higher value TVL, get partnerships to work on that decks, grow an entire platform, look into things such as our own staking and gaming platforms, which we can work with the likes of ChainBet on, grow on ChainBet, and partner and grow an ecosystem that works together in DeFi.
Yeah, and from coming from ChainBet, super excited to plug you guys all in with the bankroll pools and into all games as we continue to grow those and continue to add them to our inventory. So you talked about the decks. By the way, love the energy. How can you not be bullish? It's super exciting to see so many verticals and so many different ways that you guys are approaching generating revenue for the protocol. You mentioned the decks a little bit and the R bots and things like that. I'd love to talk more about, and you've also have also talked on this call about ways by which you could sort of do buybacks, that type of thing, which is always good for price. So to have rebase tokens are normally quite reflexive, and to have sort of buybacks and things like that is always a great thing. So you're basically growing the piece of the pie as the price of the pie kind of rises, which is always great. But on the Dex piece, I know on your website you talk a bit about streamlining and making those buybacks from there. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with the Dex piece that's sort of super interesting to me?
So
Yes.
in regards to Dex, oh yeah, go on, Neil. Sorry, my apologies.
No, you're good. Yeah, so the Dex is kind of an integral part of many of our partnerships there, and obviously, with I don't want to go too far into the weeds because it's our ChainBet partnership, but generally speaking, I partnered with Assure. That way, it's our main KYC verifier. That's who I got KYC'd by. So anybody utilizing our Dex will have to get KYC'd. We will pay for that KYC for them. It'll be for up to 2 people to get KYC'd and get into the Assure DeFi network with them. So our DEX is going to be more so for our growth as a project and those who partner with us. I'm not going to try to list everybody and everybody under the sun. That way, you have all these nonsense projects up there that cannot maintain or stabilize their rewards. There'll be a good vetting process, but more so it allows us to take our partners that we develop and say, hey, this is how we can all grow as a community together. And this is just a part of the ecosystem that's working. Obviously, there are DEX fees associated. There will be farming and staking on a variety of different levels. We'll work with the Magic protocol guys to get some vaults set up on there as well. So it will be a pretty fun, interactive DEX in general, just beyond the swap. But I'll also be pairing our token with some additional LPs with our partners on our own DEX once we get that up and running. So we'll be a relatively in-depth, DEX out there for, so to speak, in certain ways. But it'll be fun. It's just good for us to use that to maintain our growth and really maintain healthy relationships with those who we partner with.
Yeah, super exciting, and obviously you guys are going to take BSC by storm, which is also fantastic to see. Great to hear so many names in there as well. Obviously sort of mentioned them in passing, but I'm sure anyone that's listening paid attention, and there's some big names there, so that's super exciting to see as well. And great plans as well on that front, which is always awesome to see. By the way, does anyone have any questions? Again, feel free to ask them in the community talk section, or even if feel free to raise your hand. Happy to bring you up as well. We've obviously got like a super like cutting edge protocol here, which is always I'm always a fan whenever innovation comes along, and I think the way these guys are thinking about their protocol and the different mechanisms within it, I'm super excited and can't wait to sort of see how it goes in real time, and super excited about this partnership and super excited to work together. So you'll probably see out of our end over time. Definitely, there'll be a strategic part of us launching on Binance. So Binance Smart Chain. So keep you guys' eyes peeled for that as well. Being able to bet with PTX, which should be pretty exciting. Again, I'm going to remind everyone that the pre-sale is going on right now for ProtocolX. So feel free to, if anything that you've heard interests you, feel free to go out there and check it out. I think on my end, there's so much to talk about. I mean, you guys have really got some great stuff going on as well. Is there a question that you're sort of wanting me to really ask that you don't normally get to talk about? Like, what's the most exciting piece of ProtocolX that you think about?
Yeah, so I think one unique thing that we have that really generally excites me is the revenue share NFT system that we have going on here. So rebase tokens are fantastic. We love that ability there and the intense work of sustainability via strategic partners and also heavy investments. We're also all fully doxed, KYC'd, so I think that transparency is also good for the space. But generally speaking, the NFTs tend to appeal to a larger, version of people in DeFi space, and these are direct revenue share models. So they take a portion of buy and sales tax. There's various tiers. Brand went into those just a little bit ago, but for me, that is one of the more exciting pieces here. And then in the long term, I know there was a hint, question at the long term. I can hint a little bit. We are going to be working on and developing something along the lines of a streaming platform in a variety of different ways. I don't want to give too many details. We'll end up debuting that at one of the in-person crypto conventions down the line. But we have a lot going on in the short, mid-term that allow us to build up to a very long-term vision here. Most of us are full-time crypto. We are all in on this. We want to work every day, and we do work very, very long days as well to get all this going. So it's very exciting to me. And like you mentioned at the beginning, I've liked you guys way back since we had our first AMA months and months ago at this point. So I think ChainBet is going to be a great natural progression for us here. For me personally, I love the tables games. I love sports betting, and as you guys get that developed, obviously I'm happy to be early on in that system as well. Do you guys have any other BSC tokens lined up, or are we going to be the first ones out there, or the first crew anyway?
Yeah, first one's publicly for sure, and super excited to be working with you guys. So as that ecosystem expands and grows, we're super keen to keep you guys front of mind and to build the best products that we can. And as more products on the ChainBet side come into play, more game. I mean, we've got for everyone listening, some alpha on our end. We've got a lot of sort of games that are in the pipeline, ready to be deployed, and we're super excited to go over to BSC as well. So we've also got Sheeb mentioned to it. Sheeb's an old term friend of the protocols, and he's aware that we've got sort of sports betting and stuff that we're building. So a bit of alpha for you guys there, and keen to sort of plug the PTX piece into all of that as we expand into that space. I've like one question was about sort of reading out from some of the questions from the community, was sort of asking about why revenue share through NFTs and not a staked governance token. Can you guys talk a bit more about that?
Of course, and that just touches bases with me. Really, is everything that we're looking to build has an upgradable factor to it, right? Nothing comes with like being limited. I think one thing that protocols do is, especially if you have a generic thought contract, right? It's not upgradable. You can't make changes. You can't move with the times. So one thing that we're looking to do, instead of just having a a governance token, which essentially is quite a boring aspect, right? The revenue share models at base will be a revenue share model, but will grow into something more. So they will have a gamification factor to them eventually. There will be ways to use them in more fun and creative ways, whether that be land that we create, whether that be through a P to earn game. There's so many ways that you can adapt an NFT and grow that into something more rather than just a generic governance token. Now, one thing that we pride ourselves on is listening to the community. So what we don't want to separate the community on is whale governance votes and anything across them sort of sorts. We believe even sometimes the smallest fishes in an ecosystem have the loudest say, and we noticed that in recent times, right? And I can speak of a story here, is a couple of small guys within a token, not massive holders, found some sort of, naughty dev stuff happening, right? And I won't say any names or go into it in too much depth. However, because they weren't a developer or they weren't part of the team, they were brushed off. And essentially, if they were listened to, that would have stopped a large scale sort of theft or large scale sort of downfall in a token, right? Now, that's one thing we sort of pride ourselves on. Now, this token was never just my idea or Shib's idea or Jack's idea or Adam's idea. Essentially, it was everyone's idea, and actually even our moderators. Some of our moderators, especially people like Boris, RA, they helped us as well. We took a lot of community feedback when building PTX. We spoke to the guys day in, day out and was like, hey guys, we've got this idea. However, we're going to be biased on this idea because we love this idea. Me and Shib think it's a great idea. But do you think it's a crap idea? Now be honest with me. And doing that, what it does in essence is it brings you back to earth and makes you look at it from an actual point of view rather than a moon boy point of view. And that's something we're going to do in our ecosystem. We're not too bothered about governance. Of course, legendary NFTs, and they will have some sort of community roundtable sort of effect to them, right? But they won't be, hey, this guy had his final say, so we're going to do that. It's just a way to gather the community, build another step to building the community and making sure everyone is heard. Because essentially, we've all been there where we've said something we haven't been listened to, and it would have been either a great idea, and you never know who's in your token. And that's one thing I've learned. You can have, a crazy blockchain specialist that's saying you've got a massive security risk, and you think he's just talking a load of rubbish, but that could save your token. So we make sure everyone's heard. There's not really any sort of governance. I'm not too keen on DAO systems. I believe, Neil agrees on the sort of same thing. I think DAO systems is just, a whale's playground. But we listen to the entire community, so we're not too fussed about governance.
Right. So you heard that if you're someone who's listening and you've always wanted to have your voice heard, then here's an innovative protocol that's listening to its I guess community, which is always a great thing. And one topic on that, as I was thinking about as you sort of were talking, is normally also like the strongest communities as well. Like they tend to make those that get involved early and even the small players quite wealthy. So I believe with your model as well, I think that if you've ever wanted to get involved in a community, if you've ever wanted to have your feedback heard, if you've ever been someone who's like interested in DeFi as well and has thoughts about it and feedback, then head over to the ProtocolX Discord. I'll put the link in the announcement after this call and check it out and get involved over there, because it's always a great thing to have community involvement and inclusivity with a community. So that's great to hear that you guys are doing that. And that's sort of super fantastic. Next question just came in is regarding to, I guess, exchanges. Obviously, you guys have got your decks. This one's sort of asking what exchange will it be listed. Are you guys planning on going on centralized exchanges ever, or are you going to stick more the route of going on dexes?
Yeah, so we do have a partner that we're going to list our main exchange on, and we cannot announce them until they announce it. I know our pre-sale ends in 2 hours, so we got to get that stuff going there, but we're not going to be on PancakeSwap. We are going to list on a very high-profile exchange, and they are generally known for pretty high volume, and it's going to be a pretty exciting thing once we get that live, once we get that information out there for everyone to look at. But we'll not be on PCS, and we're not going to initially launch on our own decks, but it's going to be one that is very well known. So I definitely look forward to getting that information out there to the people.
Cool. went out for sale. I'll be paying attention. Super exciting. Um, I think because I'm just mindful of the time. I know you guys have got to sort of go in the next few minutes, so I think maybe we'll do a little wrap up at a high level, and then we'll sort of move on unless anyone else has got some great questions to ask. But the at the highest level, basically, PTX will set up a bankroll pool when we go live on Binance Smart Chain. So the PTX token will be bettable in all of our games, which we've talked about on this call. You know, how that burn mechanic, how that's helpful for them, how it enables them more utility of their token for their token holders, which is super exciting, and we're so excited to enable it. And then as our games come out, as more of our games come out, as we develop more and we build more products, that bankroll pool will plug in every way we can make it possible. So super excited to work together. Do you guys want to leave any sort of lasting words to everyone that's listening? Just remember, guys, pre-sales live. But do you guys, Shib, Brian, would you like to say anything? Last words?
Yeah, hey, I just want to say really thank you guys for getting this AMA done. I know it's kind of short notice here, and we definitely appreciate your time. And I do apologize for a little bit of a time constraint, but we've been grinding out here. Hey, we'll definitely have more, I'm sure, going on. Either way, we can get some stuff live for that BSC launch. We're pretty excited for it, and we'll be ready to go.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Sorry, Brent, did you have something?
That's all right. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all for having us on my end as well, and we look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Yeah, we say something at ChainBet. We like to play long-term games with long-term people, and super excited with what you guys are doing. Super excited to make PTX bettable, and everyone go check out the pre-sale if what you heard interests you. It's live now for the next few hours. I'll include everything in an announcement post after this. Thanks everyone for coming out. Super excited to be working together, and keep an eye out on Binance Smart Chain. You'll see both of us there soon.
Hey, appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon.